Hello there. As Russia starts its inevitable descent into chaos, there are two important questions to be answered. The Wagner group of mercenaries, led by Putin's former chef, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has turned on the Russian military top brass and is engaged in a self-proclaimed march of justice to take down Russia's generals. And there are now fears of widespread unrest in Russia, as it's reported that the Wagner group now has control of Rostov-on-Don and Voronezh, with the aim to be to reach Moscow and take down the military hierarchy. And it's now generally assumed that the Putin reputation is so damaged that he can't last in the Kremlin much longer. But one big question is, what will be happening to the Russian nuclear weapons arsenal in the meantime, and who will end up with their finger on the firing button? Will the West be able to negotiate with whoever replaces Putin? That will be the crucial question floating around in Western governments. But another big question is, where is Prigozhin getting the money, support and intelligence from to run this campaign? As soon as he commenced it, Putin will have cut off any official funds from Russia. After all, Prigozhin has got tanks, jets and missiles and loads of guns and ammo, but they need maintenance and rearming all the time. He needs a big backer that can keep that going inside Russia. And he's already sent the Russian army in Rostov packing, has control of military posts in there and the airfield, if reports are to be believed. And we know how many billions it's taken for the West to supply weapons to Ukraine. But Prigozhin has claimed he also has 25,000 mercenary fighters under his command. That is a significant army and takes very significant funding to keep it running and keep the mercenaries paid and fed. All that diesel fuel, tankers and ammo for starters. Surely you can't hope to plunder your way forecourt filling station to forecourt filling station into Moscow, nor rely on the hope that Russian army fuel dumps will remain intact. Surely he has massive backup from someone. And then the question must be asked, is this funding coming from someone who's taking the big opportunity inside Russia, or is this a Western government-funded project? Did we just outbid Putin for the services of the Wagner group? Has the West managed to attack Russia with its own forces? Or is this march on Moscow to remove the generals a big cover-up because half or more of those generals also want Putin gone? Are we going to see Russian commanders ordering their troops to stand aside as the Wagner motorcade speeds into Moscow? Now, Prigozhin says that he's acting after the Russian army killed his men and shot up a refugee column. But there doesn't seem to be any proof of these events. For his part, Putin has gone on the telly to demand that Prigozhin ceases this, what he called, treason, and has appealed to the Russian people to defend their motherland. We will protect our people and statehood from any threats, including treason from the inside, he said. What we are facing now is treason. But with the rate that the Wagner group is reportedly advancing from Ukraine and into Russia, maybe a lot of Russians aren't too keen to get involved. In fact, the Wagner group seems to be having far more success inside Russia than they did in Ukraine. The Wagner group appears to be operating on two fronts, one to the southeast towards Rostov and one to the east towards Voronezh, which is about 520 kilometres south of Moscow. It's now all about the northerly progress Prigozhin makes, and Moscow is apparently on high alert. And 520 kilometres is quite a distance for an unsupported battle group to cover, so once again raising the question of what support has Prigozhin really got behind him. He knows what would happen to him should he fail and find himself trapped by Putin's forces. So where did he suddenly get all the confidence from? Leads me to think he might have a serious amount of support from within the Russian military high command. And the reactions by the US, the UK, France, Germany and the EU to this turn of events seems, and I say seems, to indicate this is an internal Russian affair. And what would Prigozhin have been offered as the reward for going all out like this and threatening to destroy anything that gets in his way? But whatever the truth, according to the US Biden regime, this Wagner Group coup is real and serious. And former Congressman Adam Kinzinger told CNN, Putin out of the picture generally would be great for the world, but you think about the instability for Russia that would inevitably come from that, even if this whole supposed coup fails. There will be instability for Russia, which has nuclear weapons. There's concern about proliferation if the Russian Republic falls apart into even more pieces. And none of those smaller pieces are likely to want to give up any nuclear weapons they have due to what happened to Ukraine, are they? Now, there are a couple of other theories floating about, including that Putin is using the Wagner Group to give him a way out of the Ukraine conflict, that Prigozhin and Putin are working together on this. But I don't personally buy that. In Russia, anything that makes a leader look weak brings the final curtain down on them right fast. Everything he does has to exude strength, or he's in yesterday's obituary column. And if you don't think things can change that quickly, look at what happened to the Berlin Wall. 24 hours or so earlier, it would have been almost unthinkable. And now we have the Tory Energy Secretary Grant Shapps insulting our intelligence. He says that the big dividing line between Labour and the Tories at the next general election will be energy policy. Pull the other one, Mr. Shapps. Both Labour and the Tories, along with the Lib Dems, the Greens and the SNP, will chase every single pie in the sky net zero unicorn and dismantle the UK economy in the process. Labour and the Conservatives are like two lumberjacks stood in front of a tree saying to it, "Vote for me, I'll keep you safe," while one's holding an axe and the other's clutching a chainsaw. So for Grant Shapps to call Labour the political wing of Just Stop Oil is plain hypocrisy. At least Labour has told us what they'll do. The Tories are just using the tax system to achieve the same result in a more underhand way. Our national energy security has been systematically trashed by governments since at least the 1990s, and we've impoverished ourselves in the process by letting them do it. And the switch to net zero will be ruinously expensive for most people, if they can afford it in the first place. There's not even a cigarette paper's width between the Labour and Tory policies on net zero, because they are both following the same WEF-based policies, leading to no cars, no travel, controlled currencies, and social and carbon credit scores. Don't fall for the lie that they are any different from each other.